Okay. Thank you all for letting me lead our PLC group today. This is for my master's class. It is a study that I've conducted over the past several weeks and this year. I used Lexia Core 5 to improve reading comprehension. Here's a little bit of introduction about what I'm going to talk about today during our PLC meeting and discuss with you guys. We're going to go over our MAP scores and why a lot of our students are below average. Most of our students are doing really well in math but struggling with reading. So we're going to talk a little bit about that and why our students' comprehension is really low, and that's leading into some trouble with students in middle school and in high school. So we're going to talk about ways that we can help those students early on. Many times this year we've talked about in our PLCs the Lexia Core 5. And we decided last year to implement that in K through 5. And that is what I'm going to use for my study and discuss with you guys is our Lexia and if it has improved our school's reading comprehension K through 5. So my purpose of the study that I completed is to improve all kindergarten students' reading comprehension. I obviously use kindergarten because that's what I taught this year, so I used my kindergarten students. And our goal is to reach the low students. I had a lot of low students this year, and also those students that are above average and can go up even a little bit higher. So we're going to determine the impact that our Lexia Core 5 had throughout the year on my kindergarten students. I went ahead and did some lit review research on the importance of comprehension. I wanted to look a little bit outside the box and show some information that I researched other than just Lexia and struggling readers. Some people don't understand what reading fluency is. Fluency is something that should be easy. It should roll right off the tip of your tongue, and some of our students are really struggling. The definition that I found in researching was reading fluency can be defined as the extent to which an individual can read with speed, accuracy, and proper expression. And with some research that I also found, many students who struggle with fluency don't comprehend what they're reading. Their focus is just on getting through the materials, and then they do not understand what they've read. And this data that I found is that 40% of U.S. fourth grade students are non-fluent readers. And we're noticing that a lot in our building, and that's following over into middle school and in high school. So our students are really having a hard time because in high school, in middle school, they don't get the guidance that we have here in our building. Some other stuff I found was just the importance of using things. I know Tiffany uses in her daily 5 upstairs, she uses model reading. They do read to self, they do read to someone. And goal setting. She sits down with them once, twice a week, and they set goals, and then a month later they find out what they're doing. So that was some of the things they talked about in some of the lit reviews I found, and the importance of praise and things we need to do to keep our kids positive and wanting to read. Some other things with the importance of reading is the ability to read at high levels. If our students can read at a high level, they don't comprehend at the level they need to be. And some other things we came across during review was the lack of internet access in some of our homes. We know that we're in a low-income area, so some of our students don't have access at home, but most of our parents have phones. You see every parent with a phone, so we need to find ways to touch base with parents and let them find ways for them to use those internet access at home. I also did some outside-of-the-box research and used ways to increase reading comprehension. What I found in that time was reading fluency is one of the 5 essential early reading things that we need to use to build comprehension. If they don't have each component as they learn and grow, especially in elementary, they're not going to get the things they need. The phonics, the fluency, the awareness, it's not all going to come together the way it needs to be. Along with the daily 5 and things like that were small group interventions. I know in the daily 5, Tiffany's also talked in many of our PLC meetings about doing small group interventions, putting them in their certain leveled groups and read to self, read to someone, and then using an aide or someone else if we can find in the building to help with those and do some interventions, pulling them for some RTI. The next one here is comprehension interventions and strategies. we all battle and discuss in PLCs ways to differentiate, wow. I'm going to go there. Differentiate, there we go, reading instructions for individual students. And this is a struggle we have through the building. And we, a lot of times, look to our upper level teachers to help us know what's working, what's going on. We have many methods for improving, and we need to get our families involved. That's what we've always talked about, is communication. We need our community to help us. We've touched base with the library. Those are some of the things we've discussed, and programs there. So we need to come up with other ways to have interventions other than just our teachers ourselves. And these are just my references that I used. Okay, so let's get down to business. The research question that I focused on was, what effect does Lexia Core 5 reading program have on reading comprehension for kindergarten students? And I really wanted to use this because we're now doing looping. So now that I have had these kindergarten students all year long, they'll be coming back to me next year for first grade. So not only will I know where they left off, but I'll know where they're coming in, what is expected, and what's going on. And the same for third, fourth, and fifth. They're all going up with some of their students. So they're going to know what is expected from their students. That's why I wanted to use this to see where they gained and where they lost throughout the year and what we needed to focus on next year. And justifications, the reasons for this. Our kindergarten math scores in reading were below state average and not really where they needed to be. Our students, many of them didn't have preschool. They came in below average. So we had an uphill battle. They grew throughout the year, but some of them are still not where they needed to be. So I really wanted to focus and see if the Lexia program helped them out throughout the full year for comprehension and fluency. A lot of our students don't enjoy reading at all. They don't understand it. They don't have the comprehension and the fluency. So it's just a battle for them. They do not like it. So we need to find ways for them to enjoy it. So the reason I use Lexia is because it is an online program. It's like a game to some of them, especially in kindergarten. They see the pictures, they get to do the games, and then when they do well, they see everybody wants the certificate, and they want to know they're doing well. So I think Lexia is a great choice just to see and watch data and see if it grows. My kindergarten class, here's who I used, my sampling participants consisted of 22 kindergarten students. And this is the big one here for me, ages 4 through 6. I had 5 start out the year that were 4 years old. So I had some babies, which was extremely difficult this year. They ranged anywhere from meeting the cutoff exactly the day before. He was my baby, and then I think the other one was a month before. So I had a lot of 4-year-olds this year. 9 females, 13 males. 4 students were 18% below average. That did consist of, those were 4 of my 4-year-olds. 3 students were the very low average, 14%. 3 students just average. 4 students high, and 8 students above average. I had, out of those 8, there were 3 repeats from last year, so they were repeating kindergarten, and they were doing well. It really showed some strength in those students that were repeating again. So that was their 2nd year of kindergarten. So that was great to see those students that did repeat did well.
Are they all going to the first grade?
I will have, all of mine are going on except for 3. 1 male and 2 females are going to repeat, and they're all 4-year-olds. So the 4-year-olds that came in, 2 of them are going to continue on, but 3 of them are going to repeat kindergarten again. Next, I'm going to talk about the instruments and the things I use to collect my data. MAPS testing, which I've already hit on a little bit, is an adaptive test we use 3 times a year. We take it when we get here the first week almost, we take it in December, and then we take it right before school lets out. So it gives us where they come in, where they are mid-year, and then we know where they're ending. Easy CBM. Not all of us are using this. We've talked about it a lot in PLCs, and it's assessment that we gather bi-weekly. And I like to do it every Friday just to assess student gain. And then our school using Lexia Core 5 is K through 5. And the goal is each student is to complete 80 minutes a week. And we're reaching to gain growth in students' reading comprehension using this data and these programs.
How often did you use the computer lab?
Kindergarten used computer lab. Each grade was supposed to use 45 minutes, but we at the end of the day computer lab, and that's something we're really working on with the schedule with kindergarten, and the lower level grades don't need to go at the end of the day because it does take us so long to get ready at the end of the day. So I know Tiffany uses for second grade, they use it midday, and she said they were willing to switch sometimes. So computer lab time is a big focus, and we're going to talk about that in a little bit also. So first, I'm going to talk about the MATS test. Like I said, it is a statewide test in Kentucky. Take it 3 times a year. Here is where your students should be. It has all the grade levels on the side. You guys have some paperwork at your tables, and on the front is this graph to look at. When they're below 50%, I'll show you the form that we all use to look at their data. That's a concern. We want each student to grow at least 10 points each school year, and that was a biggie for our kindergartners this year. A lot of them did not meet the state goal, but they grew 20 points. So a lot of times we get concerned with the percentile, but we really don't focus on the points, and that's where we're really trying to work on, is just really building their points each time. On your next sheet of paper is the next instrument I use, and that is Easy CBM. Not all of you are using that. I know Miss Malloy is, she's not here today, but she uses that for RTI and to keep track of the data. You can keep whole group data and individual data. It prints out graphs for mine up here that you guys see on your papers. This is individual letter test that I was giving to a student, and it shows you here the red line obviously is below average, green is where they need to be, it's average is where they need to be above it, and at least growing up in the data. The student is extremely low average. So his data we used. For this student, we used, you have to have 8 points with the Easy CBM to use for RTI and to move on to different tier levels. So here it gives you perfect graphs for individual students, and then down here it shows you, I gave you a picture just to show you that you can pull groups, you can pull individuals, and it shows you how many tests has been given, and then the printout that you need. So these are great graphs and assessments for RTI data.
So who all uses this?
Any reading and math teacher can use this in the building. I know a lot of you aren't comfortable with Easy CBM because Miss Malloy comes through and helps you guys, or Miss Jenkins. But I use it every Friday for math and reading. I rotate Fridays. One Friday I'll do reading, one Friday I'll do math. And it is a little easier for me because I have a kindergarten aide, and she does that for me, and it is individual. A lot of times with the upper level grades we've talked about for you guys, that you can give it whole group. With kindergarten, they can't read it, so it's a little harder to do. So anybody can use it. We've discussed, Ms. Ellis has talked about letting me set those up for you guys and teaching you guys a little bit more, being more comfortable with Easy CBM to get some more data for us and help out Ms. Malloy. The next one here, and this is our big focus, is our Lexia Core 5, okay? And it's designed to help our students increase their reading skills, comprehension, fluency. They can log in anytime they want to, on a cell phone, on an iPad, just so they have some internet access. We use it daily at school in the computer lab. The great thing about Lexia is it repeats the level students are struggling. So every time they log in, it does an assessment. So it figures out where they are and where they need to be. If a student gets to a certain area of phonics and they're struggling, then the level will go backwards with them and go back to the level of just explaining to them exactly what's going on. And as they start to improve, the lessons get harder and it builds. It's great and it's easy to print off for access for graphs, and the certificates is what the kids really focus on. They want those graphs. They want those certificates. They want to know they've done well, and those go home to parents. All right. So what we're going to go on to show is some analysis, but what we've gathered, what I've talked about so far for you guys, just to recap here, is our MAP state test assessment. We're using the Easy CBM, the Lexia Core 5. So these are what we've used, what I use, not we, what I use to collect data. So now I'm going to go into a little bit of the analysis on each one of them. First, with MAPS, since that is our big one, okay? Your paper, if you'll flip through your papers, should be the next one. This is the class breakdown of the RIT scores, okay? This is great, okay? It shows where they are. I've got whole class here, and it breaks them down into their RIT scores. So I automatically know right here who is above, who is right in the middle, average, and who is below, okay? It gives us their placement. Oops, sorry. Sorry. It gives us our placements. Their yearly gain is 10 points. So if you have this one here, this printout, and then we print it out at the beginning of the year, I can sit and highlight and compare their point growth very easily. And like I stated earlier, under 50% is a concern. So this breakdown of the whole class shows me who's below, who's at average, and who's above. The questions we have, and we've talked about, why so many of our students are not meeting our yearly growth. And what we've come up with in the past couple weeks and months, and I've researched, is we have a lot of transfers come in our school. Throughout the year, I went from 22 students to 16 to 18. So we lose, and move-ins and move-outs are really affecting some of our scores. Our RTI students are being pulled and still struggling with some of their MAP scores. And behavior. We have a lot of behavior issues going on with our EBD and some of even our special ed students. So those are some reasons that our scores and our MAPs were not met. Next paper you all have is an individual student growth goal sheet. It prints out the student's information, shows where their RIT score is, and it also has a signature thing down here. It shows them where they need to be in a graph. So even with kindergarten, I can sit down and show them. This right here is where you are. This is where you need to be. And here's how many points. And it gives you a lot of space right here, to write and explain with them. And then they get to sign it themselves so they know where they need to be and what they need to do. Why students are below 50%? They did not come to kindergarten ready was something we talked about. And you can see that early on. If you have a fall score and they're in the 1 percentile, we know they're not ready. A lot of them didn't have Head Start. A lot of them are just, the first couple months, even till December, is just getting them structure, understanding the rules and things going on here. So they're not concerned about this MAPS test, especially in kindergarten. It's a little different with you guys upstairs. In my classroom, I had to do a lot of catch-up all year long. I had 4-year-olds. They don't understand the rules as a 4-year-old. They want to play. They want to have fun. So a lot of times this year, we were just playing catch-up, okay? We were working on just structure and daily routine. We have a lot of high RTI rate students. So that's another reason we've struggled with our MAP scores and, again, behavior. The next form I've given you guys to look at is a student individual progress report. Okay? It shows district mean average score. So this student here, she had a fall score of 138, a winter score of 158. State average is 141, winter is 156. Okay? So her RIT score in the fall and winter is 132 and 156. And down here I have, if you look at your graph, did this student meet the goal? She met her 10-point gain, but she's still in the 43 percentile. And a lot of times our parents don't understand, well, my kid made the 10-point gain, or they made a 32-point gain. Had a lot of students this year make 20, 30-point jumps, but they're still below 50 percentile. And the way we try to let the teacher or let the parents understand that is, if your student or your child is already in the low percentile and the rest of the state is up here, then they jump those 20 points, but what if the other student jumps 30? So it still makes a bigger gap and lowers their percentile. So when students get behind, it's really, really, really hard to bring their average up. So that's a focus we need to do. And what can we do to push this student and other students above average? And that's where Lexia comes in. And we can use Lexia to use individual lessons. We can send things home. I have here, send home more challenging leveled readers. Go upstairs, find some other leveled readers and send them home. That's something we need to talk about. Challenge her one-on-one. Let her read the lesson that I've got going on to the class. So those are some things that we need to do. Any other thoughts on things we can do for students that need to be higher level learners?
Maybe you could let her come upstairs and read to the bigger kids.
That's a great idea. I have Miss Logston, 3rd grade. She calls once or twice a week and says, hey, I've got a kid that's doing well, could she come down and read? I didn't think we should send our high-level readers down here up there to read to them. So that's a great idea. That's something we can use down here also. So just a summary of the data we collected for maps. In my graphs, you all have this on the next page too. All students of mine but one improved. 23% were low, 23% were low average, 18% average, 14% high average, 23% high, and the mean average was 160. So their mean average score was what they were supposed to have was 160. A lot of mine were scoring anywhere between 170 and then some as low as 140. So we have a big gap there we really need to focus on, and that's where I was really focused on and hoping that Lexia would improve these scores, and it really did. And the percentile doesn't help us feel so great about some of our scores, but when you break down and look at their points, some of my students jumped 30, 40 points, and their percentile is still low, but they were so far behind coming in that they had a lot of way to go. So they did really well, and they've improved this year, but a lot of times the percentile with the MAP state testing does not show that. The next data that I gathered here is the Lexia for you guys. And I know that all of us in here are reading teachers, so we all understand what's going on with the Lexia. But a lot of times the math teachers are a little confused. But with our performance predictors that is on your all's paper print-offs, it shows, mine has 21 students because one had moved out by the end of that. 80 to 100% were on target there in the green. 31 to 79% were some risk, and high risk was 1 to 30. So it's not too bad. It indicates that 50% of students were on target and 43% were high risk. So especially with the students we have coming and going, moving in and out, and a lot of the home situations, that's pretty good, especially with Lexia. So it means they are using it. They're interested in it. So we labeled down here some reasons for high risk. A lot of our students have some focusing difficulties. We have a lot of EBD in kindergarten. We have a lot of special ed in kindergarten. So there's a lot of distractions. It is tough. So it is nice to go in the computer lab with headphones on, but sometimes those students are still coming in and out. One of our computer lab times is after lunch. So we talked about that, a lot of students are wanting to go to the restroom. They're coming in and out. The EBD, the special ed students are rotating. So there's still a lot of distractions even in there with headphones on. And then no help at home, okay? No internet access, no help at all. No reading, no logging on, no nothing. So there's some reasons for our high-risk students with the Lexia. The next printout that you guys have is if they're meeting Lexia usage. And this is whole class. So at the beginning, on here that I printed off, in the beginning of May, it has 86% of my students met the usage date. And then it kind of dropped here. And I would like to say this is during a time when our students were, doing some other testing. The building had a lot going on, so we weren't in the computer lab as much. So that's probably why we went from 86 to 57%. So when things like that are going on, it messes up our computer lab time, and then the students that don't have internet access at home don't get to use Lexia to help them out, because they should meet 80 hours and 55 minutes during computer lab time twice a week. So time during reading and literacy centers could be something you could use if you wanted to add some extra time. Ms. Malloy even talked about using Lexia when she pulls out our students. She only gets them a limited time, so she did offer to use Lexia with some iPads and rotate them through if she could, which would help. Some of our students not meeting goal is one of our reasons is absentees. That's another one of our issues we haven't talked about. And I know a lot of times that's out of our hands, but when students aren't here, they're missing out. They're not learning. They're going backwards. Home life, and then again, no internet access. That's something that we can't control, but a lot of our parents don't realize that they can get the app for Lexia on their cell phone, and then their kids can use it that way also.
What if you send paper and pencil lessons home with them?
That is something we've talked about too, and Lexia is very great for that because it lets us print off lessons. You can go to individual students, and they're go in there and print off a lesson, send it home for them, staple it, send a note home to mom. Hey, use this whenever you don't have time, or they don't have time or don't have the ability to use the internet. So that's a great idea. Here is the auto placement, kind of like the maps. It places students where they are, where their ability, it kind of ability groups them. So when they're in it and they start to struggle, it brings them down a level. And then when they start to grow, it moves them up. So it has a class auto placement, and that's the form you guys have with you. And it changes, sorry. Over here, you can see on your paper, it has a red flag. So if a student is really struggling, you can click on the red flag and send home that lesson for them. It'll click on the red flag, it'll show you exactly what, it could be phonics, it can be a comprehension, and it'll print out a lesson for you to send home. You can send home letters to mom and dad. It just has fabulous, fabulous things for us to send home and use. We just really need to look in and use these. The green triangles is progress. It shows that they've completed. So down here, I also gave you guys an individual report. Okay, so we've got whole group. We've got a lot of individual reports we can also do. On our individual plan, you can get an action plan, and then it shows down here at the bottom, it's got your Common Core standards. It shows what exact standard the student is missing and what they're doing well with. So that's great too. And it will, if you click on the standard, it has extra lessons. So those students that we've talked about that are right there at average, or even those ones right at high almost, those lessons can be challenging. Send those home as well. Here's a data summary on our Lexia. We have 43% of students that are high risk. 57% are on task, which is great, especially for our students. It's stated that 10 students need 10 instructions in 10 skill areas. And what that means is when you log into your Lexia, and when I logged in, it showed those specific skill areas for those students and what they needed. So I can go into those and print those and send them out. 57% of students consistently met their recommended usage. 6 students are high risk in just sight words. So for that one, I'm going to go in and send the specific sight words home. And 5 students are above average in building words. And that's a nice too. When it shows you the above average, I can always call Tiffany or Christina and say, hey, show me something that a second or first grade level should be doing, and I can send that, even a leveled reader, home for that student. The next one here I used to see if my students were growing using Lexia. This is the main other data we're using, especially with RTI. I know not everybody's comfortable with this because Ms. Malloy, but this one here for you guys to look at on your papers is whole graph. And with kindergarten, we did a lot of letter recognition. Some of my students came in, they have no idea what the letter A through Z is. So this was huge, and it shows the graph of 7 to 12 students knew letter names, 13 through 18, one of them only knew that many. So this was early on, okay? And then down here you can see where the graph started to grow, where the students started to learn some of the letter recognition. So early on, it was pretty low. We have letter names and letter sounds. So with kindergarten, this is huge data to see. And it's great to see that they did improve throughout the year. And I like to say it's because of the Lexia, using it for the phonics and just the basics. Here is an individual student graph for grade letters. This student is struggling a little bit, and you can see here's the red line, and then yellow, and then green. Okay, the student doesn't come up high, but he did make some growths. He went up and down, but I know he has pulled a lot, and he's using Lexia at home. So this shows that the student has something else going on, which is nice to see. So even with Lexia, even with being pulled with Miss Malloy RTI, he's still struggling. So this is great data to use to move him to the next tier to get him some more help. Why the student still may be struggling, he's in the process of being referred for developmentally delayed. And this is the graph that I will use to turn in for him because he is struggling. Trouble at home, no help. That may be another reason that things aren't improving for this student. All right, so now we have talked about all the data that I've used, and we need to discuss as a group, as a PLC group, what else can we do? We've seen through the research that, the Lexia is helping. We're doing a lot of the things. We're making contact with parents. We're sending the extra work home. We've got the data. We're using the RTI. We're moving students through the tiers to get them placed if they need the extra help. So we need to come up with, as a group, ways to help the school get better. And so it says the next steps will be completed live. So what are your all's thoughts on ways that we can improve?
What about more time in the computer lab?
That is something. And Miss Ellis had, in our team meeting yesterday, we talked about just moving around the computer schedule. Like I mentioned earlier, the kindergarten students, we struggle at the end of the day. There are many times we don't get to go because something's going on, or snacks delayed just a little bit. And with kindergarten, we can't get our backpacks and our agendas checked and our folders ready to go home and go to the computer lab in that 30 minutes. So we've just talked about moving the schedules around, talking to 4th and 5th. I know we only have the one computer lab, but we can make it work. And we talked about getting some grants, getting some funds to get some more iPads, so that way we can use them in the classroom. Maybe at that time at the end of the day where we're waiting for the buses, we can rotate iPads through and let them use Lexia. Any other ideas?
Possibly an after-school program with internet or computer access.
That would be a great idea. We have really had some improvements with the library, and they're really, really, really working with us. Ms. Belt has done a lot of communicating with Miss Angie at the library, and they're doing some after-school tutoring. So maybe we can, Tiffany, if you'll make me a note just to remind me to talk to Miss Ellis about getting that. We could volunteer after school and start in the computer lab because nobody's in the computer lab. Miss Ellis, Miss Embry are always willing to stay after school with us to make sure there's somebody else in the building, and a lot of us are doing tutoring after school anyways. That would be a great time for those students that don't have internet to stay after school and use Lexia to build their phonics comprehension. That's what we're using Lexia for. So we'll make a note next PLC meeting to discuss with Miss Ellis, since she is not available this time, to discuss maybe an after-school program with some ways for students to come. So, reflections for my classroom questions. Since I've allowed myself to see the importance of tracking the data through all my study, okay? I think that all this data is something we could share with not just us, but with the math teachers. We need to see that we're growing in the reading and in reading and comprehension, because it's not just the reading teachers that need to be focused on this. If a student can't read, they're probably struggling in math too. They can't read upstairs and do a word problem if they can't read and understand the comprehension. It was great to see the results of everything combined together. I know the focus was Lexia and what it was doing for us, but through Easy CVM and our MAP scores and even the Lexia graphs, I was able to see the growth of my whole kindergarten class. And I will have those students again next year, so I know the growth they made from the beginning, I know where they ended, and then where they're going to be coming in at when I get them next year. And I really saw through the whole process, through all year long, is the importance of differentiating instruction, because every student doesn't learn the same, and we know that as teachers, but we need to find different ways. Send home the paper and pencil lesson plans, do individual group, RTI, send things with Miss Malloy. Use this data to help Miss Malloy. She doesn't see the Lexia graph. Use those Lexia graphs for Miss Malloy. She can help with those. All right, so our PLC focused question is our part 2, what we're going to discuss now. And my focused question in this study was, what strengths and weaknesses did the trust survey reveal about the K through 5 PLC group at Livermore Elementary School? So last PLC meeting, we were all here, and what I had you guys do was take a trust survey. And this is just who I use for my participants. And in that PLC meeting, we had everybody here. We had all K through 5. We had a kindergarten teacher who has taught for 12 years, Miss Belt. We had first grade, who had taught for 11 years. Second grade, Miss Walters, who had taught for 8. Third was Miss Cartwright. She's taught for 3. Fourth was Miss Belk, and she taught for 9. And fifth was Miss Penrod, taught for 18 years. All teachers in that meeting were reading for their grade level. So we had everybody here last meeting. You guys filled out a trust survey. It was 1 page. The reason I did the trust survey is we are a very small, tight-knit building. But within that building, we have a lot of trust issues. Okay? So it really opened up, we all realized, lines of communication within our PLC group. Okay? We focused on just our trust and communication in the survey. I really asked for everybody to be honest. And there were 6 of you guys that filled out the survey. On this side of your all's papers is the blank survey. You guys are familiar with it. And then I just kind of tied in one over here that has the full survey filled out. Nobody's names were on it. Nobody knew whose was whose when I looked over it. So I had gotten permission granted from Miss Ellis, and we discussed the importance of it. We didn't want any names on it. I handed it out to each of you guys with pencil and paper, and you all completed and handed them back to me. Just so those of you that weren't here understand, the scale that it used is D and A in 1 through 3. D is for disagree, N was neutral, A was agree, 1 was very important, 2 was somewhat important, and 3 not important. And then on the back, each teacher was able to describe the kind of support that they think will improve the levels of trust. So not only did I see just the results of the survey, but also your all's individual thoughts. And then I took it over the past week and broke down the survey data into 2 groups. Okay, I divided it into communication and collaboration, which is a major issue in our building, and also just trust and honesty. So if you look at your graphs, we have communication and collaboration in the first part of it. And we have some trouble, obviously, with communication and collaboration. So you see all this here, disagree. They know, you guys stated, you do not fully collaborate or communicate with each other openly. Okay, and over here, fully agree that it's difficult to communicate with one another. So that was a huge red flag to me. And I think it was great after we filled out the survey, it just kind of opened up some communications where we talked about it. You all didn't know the results last week, but we talked about the importance of it. So, questions related to it. Is communication and collaboration important? Yes. If we can't communicate from kindergarten to first grade or second to third grade, then we don't know what's coming and what needs to be worked on. I need to be able to discuss with the first grade teacher and the second grade teacher, what are you expecting your students to know when they come in, so they're prepared. Are teachers comfortable sharing? The data shows not. We're not comfortable in this building sharing our thoughts or giving ideas. We don't take criticism well. So this is something we really need to focus on, because communication and collaboration in a small, tight-knit building is very, very important. Down here I gave our analysis for it after I looked over all the data from you guys, take the 6 of you that took it. It said 67 agreed that they did not feel comfortable sharing ideas and materials with communicating with others. 2% agreed they did feel comfortable, and 2% just felt neutral. So, and I think that the neutral was uncomfortable with answering either or, and that right there goes with just a trust issue. We're not comfortable being honest with one another as teachers. And then a huge one down here, 100% felt communication, collaboration was important. So we are all on the same page with that, as, you know, it's important. If we can't communicate, we're not going to grow. Next part I broke it down into was trust and honesty. Okay, here's your graphs. And again, it looks very similar to communication and collaboration. You have your graphs there. I'm going to go over here. Do teachers feel they can trust one another? Can teachers be honest? Do they believe in one another's abilities? And your graph shows this. 80% agree that they do not fully trust each other, and 2% feel they do. Here's another big one. 100% agree that trust and honesty is important. We have got to be able to trust one another's abilities as teachers. That's the same. If the students don't trust us, they're not going to listen. Same things with teachers as communicating. So through the survey, the trust survey, the strengths that I've gathered and what I wanted to communicate with you all is that everybody totally agrees that communication and collaboration, trust and honesty are very important. And I think in our building that we need to use this trust survey for the whole building. You know, and I don't mind to do that. Give the survey to the whole building, and then in the next meeting go over our results. It opens up communication, lets us discuss that we really don't have open lines of communication. And like I said, it's a great starting point. And then I used a quote down here at the bottom, and I think this needs to be something we use. And it says, "It's amazing how much can be accomplished when no one cares who gets the credit." Because some of us, I think, are a little bit, that we want to know that we're doing a good job. And that's okay, but we're worried about, well, if somebody takes my idea, they're going to look like the better teacher. Well, it's not about us. It's about the students. And if some other teacher needs to use that, so be it. They can just make it their own. Weaknesses from the survey. No trust in our building. We can't share ideas. If we can't share ideas because we don't trust each other, we're not going to grow as a building. Same thing. Trust also ties into communication. We're unsure of what other grades expect, like I said earlier. I need to know what first grade expects next year, so my kindergartners are ready, and vice versa. First grade needs to know what's coming to them. If I can't communicate with Miss Belt or Miss Walters, then they don't know what's coming to them either. And we're not honest. We're missing out on giving positive critique. So what I stated on or thought of ideas for the research is, like I said, the trust survey is going to be given to all faculty. I think that's our next step, what we need to do. And then, like I've done with the graphs, I'll do the same thing and share at the faculty meeting. Show every teacher the graphs. And what I really thought about doing, and you guys let me know and think about it and then email me, but it's putting a share box in the front of the office for teachers to drop in ideas, thoughts about ways to help in the building. Kind of like we do with the 4th and 5th grade girls right now, some things going on. You can put your thoughts in the box. Nobody knows where it came from. Nobody knows, but it lets us know what's going on. You know, we're having a little bit of bullying concerns, so we're letting students put their ideas in the box up front where nobody sees them. We don't know where it came from, but we can see the idea. So it would give us some ideas if somebody wasn't comfortable. I think we need to work on making longer PLCs, give us some time to communicate in groups, and even switching them up. I know we're all reading in here, and that's usually what it is because we're working on that and kind of touching base, but we need to intertwine. We need to work with some of the math teachers because math and reading go together. If they can't read, they can't do the math problems. So, and I have mentioned many times and talked to Ms. Ellis yesterday and in the weeks prior about making sure she's available for our PLCs and keeping notes and taking minutes and things like that. So she's going to keep a log and then follow up with us. So she's going to keep us accountable of our meetings and our dates and our times and what we're covering, and check in with us. Make sure we're sharing and touching on things that we're not comfortable with, building our weaknesses, touching on our strengths. So Ms. Ellis is going to keep us responsible. The trust survey really allowed me in my PLC group, which we were able to do last week, to just see our weaknesses affect the whole entire building. Because when one person is kind of sour and they don't want to help the other, and with our leader and me, that's what this is about. We're going to have teachers coming in and critiquing us, positive, negative. We've got to use that in field. And it was great to see everybody be honest. So I'm really excited to give this to the whole building and see what our results are and share. We're going to really follow up. That's one of our weaknesses. We've got to follow up. And then, like I stated, more time for PLCs. This allows us to work together and gain trust. So this group in here is pretty comfortable. We're all in reading. If we tie in math and upper and lower grade levels and work together, we're going to be more comfortable with one another. So the next step that I've got is we're going to meet with Ms. Ellis and work on getting the trust survey out beginning of the year, just to touch base on how we all feel about it, and then I will present those at the next action. Thank you.